Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. Just gonna turn off this fan. Of course, it makes too much noise there. That's better already, right? We're gonna do some sketch looking at. Now, I'm gonna treat you to a slideshow to start off. And then we'll go through and talk about them. Don't want that to be too onerous. So just enjoy, have a look at them. And I'll go through and make commentary as appropriate. I love that one. That's in Collinsville, Connecticut. The car's a little messed up on that. It's two different shades. Don't worry about that. That bridge is a little wonky, but it's a sketch. Don't worry about that. A couple more versions of the same bridge. A factory scene working with shadows a bit. Just a field. A postcard by Stan Carlson. An imaginary tank. Self-portraiture. Maybe that's self-portraiture. Rough sketch. Slightly less rough sketch. Same idea of the hat pointed downward on a cowboy. Brother-in-law's Jeep. This is the artist Thomas Moran, Thomas Yellowstone Moran. That's my version of his painting. Sketches of people. I'm not real good with people. I love this because there's so much background you can do. Clouds are a little onerous. Again with the airplane thing. Now that we'll talk about. An old bank. It's a restaurant now. The back of a tire shop. Inside that old bank. That old bank, if you look inside, looks like this. This is it right here. Well, those people are pretty garish, but that's the inside of the bank. A school, public school there. Really, really awful institution. Very, very bad. Terrible. Terrible people there. Downtown Bristol, Connecticut on the right. The old downtown. That's just perspective play with a house. Bristol, Connecticut. I think Babe Ruth played at Moosey Field, which is here in Bristol. Actually, I say here in Bristol. I don't live in Bristol. I'm a few miles out. There's a history of clockmaking in Bristol, so it's apparently okay to do a clock, like so. That's inspired by a painting. That's from a picture from the Middle East. A pumpkin farm on the left there. Again, Collinsville, Connecticut, old factory. That's totally out of my imagination right there, that one. Totally, no reference. Well, the one on the left is fun. It's near my daughter's violin lessons. This, no reference, out of my brain for Christmas. And again, Christmas, just out of my brain. I just wanted to have a Christmas tree. And another one, this is from a picture I found on Google and I just liked it. And another Christmas tree, this one blocking the whole window. That's it. Mountain Pass in China. And the farms with the hay bales. Always me with the hay bales and farms. A doodle page, just doodle, doodle, doodle. Again with the farm. Some cows, hay bales. A yacht in Alaska. Collinsville, Connecticut, Rock Street. I want to play with that and do perspective in the background there. And there's that one. I like that one. That's my latest. I just finished that one. I like this one. And just a radius. The fences are so easy. Another fence there. Oh, the one on the right I really like. It's composition I like. That's the utility stuff behind a restaurant. This again, Collinsville, Connecticut. Farms. Always with the farm. I grew up on a farm, so I can do that. And fences. Fences meant something to me growing up, so. Now, didn't we see this already? Are we starting over? I don't know how long to let it go. Is it starting over? Is it just going to keep going? No, we didn't see that one, did we? Maybe we did. We saw that one, right? I think it started over. Yeah, the train. Okay. Alright, so those are my sketches from I have 3 sketchbooks. And that is the sketches. Let me start with the very first sketch in the first book right here. Talk about it. That's a church. I just wanted the receding lines. I wanted the church to go, instead of go straight up like it does in real life, I wanted it to look like it's receding. And right across the road from that was this little house, blocked by this magnificent tree, which they have since cut down. I drove past a couple weeks ago and they had cut that tree down. I said, good God, what is wrong with these people? Why? A tree just gets to a magnificent size and shape and people cut it down. Self-portraiture, I'm not good. I haven't studied. I don't know how to draw human faces or figures. I don't know it. So that's just me utterly bungling there. Same thing, that's just a tracing. I just traced this one. I turned the page over and traced it backwards. Just practicing with some faces there. Now see, these are my very first early sketches in my first sketchbook. That is garish, I know, but I turned it into that on the second draft. I just had this vision of a guy, his head down, probably driving against the rain. I didn't know how I should do the rain. And just a whole bunch of lines turns out to be kind of sufficient for rain. Yeah, if you can get the droplets hitting a little bit there, it's nice. Should I get that bigger? That's probably, I should try to do that. Alright, well, where's my thing now? Why can't I go? Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. That's super annoying that I can't get that bigger without that arrow disappearing. You can see my fingers there in the bottom there. It's just another cowboy composition. My brother-in-law's Jeep. Now this is Thomas Moran's painting called Cliff Dwellers. Well, that's my version done with oil pastels. I should have had more light over here because the sun apparently is shining on these rocks. So I could have used more light on the light side of this to tell that story a little better. So that's a pretty rough, but it was fun. I like the original, and you have to go clear back. That's fun. That's a head done just with a bunch of dots, right? There's no lines. And I like the little waiter guy down there. He's fun. This is an interesting... This has interesting possibilities because you can do a lot in the background. And the running gear is fun. It's a great detail. This is not from a reference. This is totally out of my head. Which is, you know, you shouldn't do it. You should have some reference so that you're not completely floating. And this is completely floating. Utterly floating. No reality to it at all. So the airplane is probably really goofy. But as a concept, you know, in a sketchbook you can just say, what would it look like if I took a picture of airfield from the running gear under a plane? And that is, you know, now a good reference photo to work with it would be nice, but it's fun. Okay, this I just hadn't done much with airplanes, and I just was working a bit on airplanes because growing up I drew a lot of trucks. I drew trucks all the time. My older brother taught me how, and then I improved on that, and even went 3D with it. Could draw them from a 3/4 angle or whatever. Whereas he taught me just a 2-dimensional side view. And so getting bored of trucks, I said, well, let me try some airplanes. So that's all I'm doing there. The clouds got a little garish and out of control. Another airplane with the air-filled view in the back. This wheel, completely wonky. The body of the airplane too big, probably should recede on this line here instead of that line there. But fun. It's a fun little sketch. Alright, this one, I haven't done a great version of it. But what I want to do is I want to have lots of detail on this wall that's really close to us in this column here. Maybe some climbing vines going up it, chipped paint, something like that. And then I want another center of focus at this farthest away point. Maybe some people walking on some stairs there or something like this. Or somebody, maybe, I don't know. See, I just had this conception of a really neat detailed wall with some center of interest over there, and I think this composition's pretty neat. I haven't worked on it in a while. Okay, another airplane. I actually did 3 small canvases with 3 different airplane compositions on them, and I did one with this and I sold all 3 of them. I sold the set for about the price of the canvases, so it's kind of standing still, but I got my money back and bought more canvases and paints. And that kid that I sold them to is happy to have some airplanes to hang in his house, apparently. Young kid, his parents were like, you don't even know what he said it's an airplane. Oh, alright, let him buy it. Farm, always with the farm. This one's got a truck over here as a center of interest that's too far to the left, but it's blocked off by the haystack, so maybe that's not the best composition. There's a lot that can be done with this farm composition. The fence, the haystacks, as a homage to Monet and his haystacks that he painted over and over. This is a cute composition, which this playground's just down the road from our house, and my daughter likes to play there in the summer sometimes, so I just drew this while I was sitting there one day. And I would like to do a really competent version with nice detailed trees in the foreground and this well-lit, sunlit playground out in the middle of the field, standing in the shadow of the trees looking out at the sunlit play equipment. And maybe one or two kids playing on it would be reasonable to try to put in. This gas station is from a real photo of a real gas station that really is abandoned, sitting out in the middle of some real place. So, feel the gas station. This completely out of my head, just playing. Rivers don't curve like that, that's ridiculous. It's about to spill over the banks. This is all too flat. That tree's little, this tree's huge. There's no detail on this side over here. This is nice though. This is nice. And that's colored up with oil pastels. So I was sitting waiting for an appearance on stage as a stand-up comedian. I was just outside the bar for 30 minutes or so waiting to go in and sit there and drew this. I didn't want to go in and start drinking too early, Since then I've quit drinking, but I did have me actually maybe that might have been when I'd quit drinking. I think I drank O'Doul's on that occasion just to look like I was drinking. An old bank. National Bank. Now it's a restaurant. I like to draw the front of that, it's fun. I've done a few versions of it. I actually associated with the owner of that restaurant for a while and showed him one of my paintings of the front of his restaurant as a painting of this perspective. And it showed just 3 letters here with trees going over everything. And he liked it so much that I left it with him, and I've never gone back to talk to him since, and he didn't pay me for it, and whatever, he's just got my painting. It was just a black and white, white canvas, black paint. This is the back of a tire shop. While I was waiting for my tires to be changed, I sat on the grass at the back of the tire shop and drew the scene. This is inside of that guy's bank, which is a restaurant now. That was a musical event of an evening. Unfortunately, the restaurant was approximately that packed. There were approximately the people playing the stuff and me sitting there drawing. Southside School in Bristol, Connecticut. A few versions of it. Probably like that one the best. That one's too blocked off maybe from both the trees. I didn't finish the fence. How garish of me. And those are all colored in with a bit of oil pastel. An oil pastel, this one I said to myself, I'm in kindergarten today, I'm just going to color. And I did, I just colored. And this is the old downtown Bristol, Connecticut. Or let's see, I'm standing in the old downtown Bristol, Connecticut, looking east. So right behind me and to my right, really, are the buildings of the old downtown. Which is just, it's all degraded now. It's all a Chinese noodle shop and a mobile phone shop where it used to be the central grocery stores and everything. And this is just a cute composition. You get to do a fence over here with a bit of detail and your hanging gate. And you get receding distance with your walking stones here. And then the house provides this sharp perspective. It's just a good composition. What do I have to do? So, Bristol, Connecticut was home of Babe Ruth, if I remember right. Is that right? Babe Ruth? He's the only really famous baseball player from the 30s and 40s I could think of, so pretty sure it's him. Babe Ruth played at Moosey Field, which is a field that I've painted at and sold paintings at. I set my paintings up outside one day when they were having a game, and a bunch of people milled around before the game, and they came and looked at stuff after the game, and I sold a bunch of paintings after the game. Everybody wanted to just grab a painting on their way out the gate. So it was fun. So anyways, that's the baseball thing there, I guess is why I mentioned that. So Bristol, Connecticut's got a lot of tall red brick buildings for apartment buildings, 30,000 people or so. Used to be a fairly industrial city, now it's lower class. The stairs here to indicate stadium seating at the baseball stadium. And the clock there, because Bristol, Connecticut, Terryville, Connecticut more accurately, has a history of clock making. Wooden clocks were manufactured in really large numbers early in the history of the United States and competed with Swiss-made clocks and German-made clocks, which were made of metal and more reliable and much, much more costly. So wooden clocks were made in Terryville, Connecticut, right next to Bristol. A couple more sketches. Should the letters all be even like that? Or maybe should we swoop them in and have something else going on? Boy, that baseball bat is not very good there, is it? So I'm just working with this. I went to a painting group, a watercolor painting group, and officially they all work on something, but actually a lot of them just sit there and do their own thing. And you have to pay $15, it's once a week, and you just sit there and talk and paint. I only went twice because it's kind of a waste of money for me. I'm just going to sit there and paint anyway, but this day they were doing a word associated with the way that that word is or whatever. You know, like lemons, but you would make it yellow and shaped like a lemons or whatever, and or you just choose a word. I said, I'll choose the word Bristol and I'll do the city of Bristol with baseballs and clocks. So that's what I was working on with these sketches, and we'll see a collar version. There we are. I didn't finish it, I was just working it through, but the I is the lamp post, S is the stadium seating, O is a clock, and the B and the L are the tall red brick buildings that are all over the city. And I don't think that's actually bent in my drawing. I think that's an artifact of the page having been a bit warped when I took the picture. But, and then what's this here? This is just doodles. Anything here? A little landscape in the middle of my doodle page. These are just doodles. Bristol, Connecticut. Alright, this is a cute picture, which I think I just did out of my head. I might have had a reference photo in mind, but I think 99% of that, or 92% of it, is just out of my head. Cute little composition. Could have done more to bring the boat into it. It's kind of like, what's that boat doing down there in the corner? Okay, the haystack thing. I did this haystack. This is on the same piece of paper. It's just there's not even a line between them there, huh? I did this haystack, and then when I was done, I was very pleased with this. This is a post that's supposed to hold the stack up so it doesn't fall down as easily. I was pleased with that, pleased with the shadow, and then I took another look at it sort of. I said, well, why is this line like that? Because if it's more distant from me, this should be here and the line should go like that. So I tried again and I got that correct, and that's nice and sharp, but I still didn't get this line like that. So someday I'm going to have to correctly I'm getting better and better doing this haystack scene thing. And you see with that sharp angle at the top versus this dole business, I think that is nice. It's imposing. And there's this house down at the end there. I think I'm going to try this sharper, more angled version and get this, maybe this, instead of this line coming that way, which is not correct, have it come maybe straight down or towards me just a bit. Alright, this is from a painting that, if I remember right, it's a German painter. This is certainly a German town. It was a winter scene. And I just did a pen version of it basically out of my head, not looking at the original. This is from a picture of probably Jerusalem, I guess. I don't know. Someplace in the Middle East. Because there's one type of thing and another type of mosque-y thing. Whatever they are. Church of David or who knows what they are. I don't know. A pumpkin patch farm. Just about the time of Halloween, so the fields didn't have much pumpkin and jam in them. That pumpkin's floating a bit. Sorry about that. That's colored in with colored pencils. Alright, this needs the fence in the foreground to be darker, to tell us that it's darker, a lot darker. And then these mountains are quite far away. The fields tell you something about the distance that we're working with here. But this fence needs to be really darkened up to carry us into the painting instead of just looking at this flat thing. Alright, the mills at Collinsville, Connecticut. I put a lot of work into this. I was very careful with my pen work here. The building over here is not done. I'm going to put lines in the windows for the bars that are actually in the windows, which is a true thing. And I didn't do that building very well. It's just a set of squares. In actuality, it has brick colonnades running up the side in between each set of windows. And I did not put those in this particular drawing. I did another drawing where I did put them in. Which, if you just pan over to the left, that's what my other drawing is. It's like this area here. Standing on this bridge looking over here. Again, Collinsville, Connecticut. Farm, I did completely out of my head. No reference photo at all. That tree looks huge. Huge, huge, huge. Probably supposed to be 2 or 3 trees. Staircase. This is an interesting composition. You get the street scene. This house up here, there would be a, if I did it properly, there would be a bunch of light coming from this area up here. And I don't know how to light the stairwell. I don't know how I would, but it's a fun composition. I've started to outline it in pen. You see, I do a pencil sketch and then I go back in pen and darken it up. And I've started it there, but I didn't get very far, and my daughter's bus arrived and we put everything away and drove home. This is from a photo of a Russian, what is it, like a Russian missionary fort or something out in Siberia. The Russians used to have settlers and colonists. You know, they colonized Alaska, but they did a really bad job of it. They did it the way Russians would do it, by, you know, using the colonists as basically slaves. And that's why we own Russia today. Well, because we bought it. Alright, off the subject. This is like 2 inches tall and 3 inches wide. But I wanted to have some Christmas compositions. and these are drapes, and that's a lazy boy recliner with, for some reason, the foot thing up even though nobody's sitting in it, which, how does that happen? But just some fun Christmas compositions here. Again, with the window, no detail outside the window, very unfortunate because it's a little too far away. But Christmas tree, presents under the tree. This is a snowy scene, doesn't come across as snowy because I haven't put any color in it. But perhaps the roundness of the roof would indicate snowiness on the roof, perhaps. But it's a Christmassy scene. The tree in the foreground's done fairly well. I did do that from a. This is my version or my copy of an actual painting. It's like a Thomas Kincaid, probably. Although not Thomas Kincaid, but like Thomas Kincaid. It was glowy and lit with really yellow light from the windows and type of thing. Again, with the Christmas thing, some points of interest outside the window, which I was playing with compared to the other ones. This is from a movie starring Humphrey Bogart, if I remember right, called the China something or other, China Syndrome or something. It is a spy movie about China. And these are Chinese peasants marching up around this mountain pass. It's the only way to get from one city to another in this particular area. And what they had to do is they had to blow this up. And there was a scandal. How many people are going to get hurt? Or should we tell them? No, you can't tell them. They'll cause a riot, you know. We just have to do it. And I didn't watch the whole movie. I paused it when I saw this and drew this and never watched the movie. I don't care about the movie. I was just looking for something to paint. The farm composition. Boy, that feels like I am on the farm. God, that takes my breath away. Like if you grew up in the middle of nowhere and big cities are really far from you, and when you go to those big cities, you are an outsider, and then you leave them and you go back to your farm. If you do that, if you grow up like that, live like that, it is claustrophobic. And the world seems really, really far away. And it's difficult to get out of a rural setting. And so these farm compositions, I do them out of memory, but one thing that I would like to convey is this really imposing haystack, and the fencing here traps you, right? You're not in an open field where you can see great distances, and you have one place you can go, right here. You can go over here a bit or go right here. And I know I shouldn't have this hay bale blocking us. I know that's in poor taste. But, just ignore that particular composition of that. But the fence traps you on the right. The haystack is imposing over top of you on the left. It's very domineering. And that fits my experience of growing up on a farm. The world seems so far away and so difficult to get to, and like maybe you'll never get to take part in the world. And you wonder, what are they all doing out there in the world? What are they up to? Plus, I grew up before the internet, so. Alright, some sketchy sketch here. Mantle. There's a house right there, and a road. So that's a little teeny landscape. There's a landscape of just a tree. And if you turn everything sideways, that's a boxy landscape of a city. There's the classic fence thing over here, an armchair, a grandfather clock, and a mantle. That's a page of doodles. I don't really doodle much, so that's... Alright, with the farm composition. You're trapped in this painting. You can't go anywhere. You can't get past that hay. If you move forward, all you're going to do is get to the cows. You can't get over them and get anywhere. I mean, I like the composition. It probably does not have the feeling or the meaning or the ring. It probably doesn't read for most people the way that it reads for me. But when I do a really accurate drawing of the farm, it kind of makes my stomach sink a little bit. I just go, oh God, you know, to be trapped in a claustrophobic, imagine feeling claustrophobic and surrounded on all sides by space. You know, you're out in the middle of fields that are empty for miles and you feel like you're trapped and can't get anywhere. You know, and now as I age, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to go be a farmer because I wouldn't have to deal with all the shitty people in the real world, but too late for that now. I can't go being a farmer at the age of 40 when your health is gone. You got to build your farm and your wealth up, and when you turn 40, you start having your kids help you. So I'm too late to be a farmer, and plus you don't make money farming. Your wife has to be a teacher at the school in town, and she has to bring home the paycheck so you can afford to farm. Alright, this is a yacht in Alaska. I didn't do the rocks very well at all. They're all just sort of flat and there, and I didn't get much with the perspective. I like the boat though, it's strong, but the mountains need help. It's just an ink sketch. Alright, this is, the bridge up there is terrible. Don't worry too much about that. I was just saying, oh, okay, bridge, and I just put it in. But my main area of focus with this painting is, and this is in Rock Street, Collinsville, Connecticut. My main area of focus was, could we look through these arches and have our point of interest through there? And maybe some secondary interest over here. Maybe some people walking up here on the bridge or something, but could we make special primary detail through the archway and make you feel like you're seeing quite a distance in this? So that's what I'm playing with that particular idea there. Again, the arch, this is a closer version of the arch. This one's pointed on top just because I'm a moron, but that's not necessarily true. And see, this one's all brickwork all around, and the only place you can see through is just this center bit. So I'm playing with that idea. And this is the factories at Collinsville, Connecticut. Today they are occupied by things like hairdressers, and somebody's got an art shop there and stuff. It's a pretty she little town. And there's this industrial stuff here, which I think lowers and raises headgates for waterways underneath. There must be pipes or something flowing, canals flowing underneath or something, because I think those are machines for raising and lowering headgates. I'm not really sure what they are. They're just round, geary things inside of that building. Okay, that was my first sketchbook, starting from the first sketch. Now let's go to my second sketchbook, starting from the first sketch. It's an interesting composition. Right behind this building over here was a pickup truck parked in some brushes, some weeds. And I took some pictures of that and painted a painting of the back of that pickup truck. I was very pleased with it. Just a two-tone painting, blue and white, on a black canvas. And I sent it to my dad for Christmas. Sent him a few paintings. So I got some good mileage out of the pictures I took that day. Again with the fence. This is a very simple composition. Fence. Mountains in the distance. A little more aggressive with that mountain there. You just notice that if you just cover up that mountain, just imagine that mountain's not there and that's just white space there, then all you've got is this fence. Bit of a road there. I mean, there's not much to this composition because the fence hides so much over here. So what I do like to contemplate is putting some scenery, letting those fence posts space out a bit and putting some scenery in between the fence posts, some centers of interest between the fence posts. Okay, now this is a composition I'm quite fond of. There's this brick wall and there's this fence here, and there's this little footpath that goes right here, and maybe it doesn't, I haven't captured it very well here, it doesn't come across perfectly, but I'm pleased with it, and I like the original composition, and I have fun contemplating it and looking forward to a day when I do a real tight version of it. Alright, so if you go out back behind a restaurant and sit down and have a cigarette, you're probably going to see something like this. You can see gas mains and maybe a snow shovel stored there for the, you know, and in this particular instance, there was some weeds growing over here, and they sort of poked up a little bit, just through here a little teeny bit. But really it was this weird situation where there's this green locked inside this picture right here. So if I ever colorize this, that'll be the only patch of green with a little renegade stem poking out here with a few little leaves. And just some green over there. And all the rest of this is mechanical, cement, pipes, steel, iron. So, an interesting composition. Now, this is Collinsville, Connecticut. This is the building earlier that I had shown was just a box, and I said it should have the colonnades. There's a rendering with the colonnades going up the side. I'm happy. I'm not tickled. I'm not really super happy, but I am happy with the reflections in the water that I accomplished here. They're not real great, but I also didn't try real hard. I just went, let's see if we can make this work. I think I'll be painting these factories a lot this summer. There's a bridge there that I want to paint, and I think I'll be painting those factories and that bridge a lot. Again with the farm composition. This, now see the difference there? That haystack, I would have to be standing approximately in the bed of a pickup truck to get that view of that haystack, approximately. Or on like the hood of the pickup truck. So that composition is not true. Why would you be on the top of a pickup truck to look at that scene? This composition is a little more true. The fence, maybe not. Actually, I am a bit above looking down at the fence. But the haystack's more true. And I'm just trying to perfect, you know, my view of the haystack scenery. I've done paintings of it. I've sold paintings of it. But, I'm just trying to get better over time at what exactly we need to do with what, where, and how, and what, You got to be careful with eye level and perspective. That's the whole thing. That's the whole donut. So, again with the farm composition, tractor tire, little teeny farmhouse peeking out. Just peeking out over there. A pitchfork, hard to see here. That's a pitchfork. This is when I was just going through a stage of didn't know what to draw, slightly bored. I'll just draw my fence composition again, and I'll just do a really, really detailed background. So I spent, an hour or two over several days. Whenever I have 10 or 20 minutes waiting for my daughter's bus or whatever it is, getting the oil changed, whatever it is. This composition's pretty garish. it is what it is. I mean, it has some redeeming qualities, maybe, somewhere. But I like this is really bland over here. And what is this? 3 centers of interest stacked on top of each other? It's just weird. Just weird. And I left it for a long time. I left it. I didn't come back and ink it. Finally, I came back and inked it, you know, put black ink lines on it. And then I left it again for a long time, and finally I came back and watercolored it. So it's sat and sat and sat. This is the bridge at Collinsville, Connecticut. Now, I advise you, if you are starting to paint or want to try to start to paint, to let loose once in a while and just take a paintbrush and do a 20-second painting. You know, this one, look, well, okay, so I did the background a bit first and had to wait for that to dry. So it wasn't really 20 seconds, but once I got to these big steel girders here that do this, and I know I got this perspective wrong here because I didn't know which one I wanted to do, so I just tried them both. I said, well, what if the handrail went up here like this, and what if it was down here lower like this? So if I had it to do over again, this handrail over here would match the one on the right, rather than the one on the right matching the one on the left. That would block all this space up here. Now, I didn't do much with this space, but presumably you could do, this would be a good place for your main center of interest, right here, viewing out through the girders of the bridge. So that was just a really quick composition, and then I had this picture sitting looking at me for several days. It was my favorite painting, even though it's just a teeny, you know, silly, quick sketch. Standing here on this bridge, if you look to the left, back up a bit to where you're not quite on the bridge yet, and look to your left, and you will see this house. Now, I've drawn it from a perspective where I'm on the ground, but actually in the photo I took, I was up on the elevated walkway looking down at it, sort of. And it's this cute red brick house, which people live in. It's in this abandoned factory site. Anyways, another one of the bridge. Now, see, I've been more careful with the handrails on this one. Maybe not perfect, the handrail went a bit too high there. But just working with these shapes that don't make a lot of sense unless you stop and look at them and figure them out. And it's really a forest of forms and shapes, this bridge. There's a that one's not quite busy enough yet. I need supporting legs here that go straight down. And what else? Some more sturdy these lines up a bit. This is supposed to have a big blocky thing that ties those together there, like these ones do. And maybe put a bit more detail up there. But this is getting there. See, this is version 3. That's version 2. And this was version 1. 1, 2, 3. So that will happen. Something will happen. I'm going to paint that bridge. I've done a small painting of it on a 8x10 canvas. Okay, more of the factories at Collinsville. This is the same as that drawing. This is the same picture as that drawing, but panned to the left. The drawing was panned to the right in this, and this building was the farthest left bit. And those little things with the round machinery gears in the little hut are like right here. This, why did I do this? I don't know, but I just put really strong trees here for a forest and just said the corner up here is going to have a tree peeking in, so I can put some shadow here, and that can give us some brightness here for our center of interest. And there it is. It's just a watercolor sketch that's really, really mundane. This is from a postcard by Stan Carlson. And I don't know who he is and when he died. He's probably long dead because I think this postcard was from like the 1920s. So if he was a postcard artist in the 19-teens and 20s, then he's dead. But good one on you, Stan Carlson. This needs to be strengthened with some dark green to push the train back, because these leaves are supposed to be in front of the train and blocking it, so I need to darken those. I was a little afraid of darkening them and bringing them even further close to us than the little fishing man. And in Stan Carlson's painting, by the way, there was a rope like this and a little kid on the rope swinging out into the water, and 2 kids here on the shore. So he had 3 kids playing and jumping in the water. I didn't want to do that because I thought it would be easier to do a fishing man. And I wasn't really interested in the people anyway. I just thought I'd better put something there because Stan had something there. What I was interested in was those trains, and look at the smoke on that one. Pretty good. I mean, not fantastic, but also, I have to mention, this is not watercolor paper. This is just notepad paper, which I am using watercolors on in a belligerent fashion. I'm just saying to everybody, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to use watercolors on this paper. I don't care. And it warps the paper, and it pills up, you know, little pills of, if you brush it at all, little pills of paper start popping up. Alright, this one I just started, I just did this shape of a tank. I said, well, I have a tank and it'll have a boom boom gun right here. And then it took me a couple days to fill the rest of it out behind. I just came back to it once in a while and did a little bit on it. Eventually got there. Now this one here, you can see the pilling, because I went over this. It was just too dark of a wash in the background, and I tried to lighten it, and it's just turned to a disaster. So I said, well, let's just play with strong shadows. So I did a bit of shadowy brightness here, shadow here and there, and then this stop sign or whatever it is the main thing. It's the star of the show. Not from reference, that's just a sketch out of my own head. This sketch is just starting. I'll be going back and working on it, I think. It's going to have strong shadowing. That house will cast a shadow. And so then over here I'll have to have something where the sun is shining on it. And it'll be very bright right there. That'll be the center of interest. Again, with the factories in Collinsville, this tree is really bad. Really, really bad. But let's pretend the tree wasn't in there. See? This shape, this building, is fun. And rendering a little more detail into these buildings here, I think it could be fun. So, that's a fun composition. Again with the bridge. This one I decided to do really light values everywhere except the bridge itself, and make the bridge itself, even though it's further away, make it the really stark thing. In real life, the definition would be on this building, on this corner that's closest to us, and everything else would recede, and the bridge would be very, very pale indeed. But that is not how I wanted to do it. I wanted the bridge to be the loud thing. And of course, it doesn't read very well. It's just a quick watercolor sketch. Alright, and there's to the originals. There we are, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Cropper's sketches, such as they are. That is about a year and a half worth of sketches going back from when I very first started to try to learn how to paint up until 2 or 3 days ago, or yesterday. One of those drawings I was working on just yesterday. Alright, thank you for joining me. Tune in again.